Pull them out, then you're whole thing every
That was our.
year. Move to number 3, move to approve the minutes of the January 3rd, 2023.
I'll second that.
To approve the minutes from January 3rd, 23. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Public comment. We'll skip by that.
Yep.
Sheet of information, supervisors not seated as committee members. And skip by that. Update from Administrator Netherland.
Yeah, no surprise to all of you, had a little snow this winter. I want to say thank you.
You mean it's over?
Yeah, the guy from Arizona just chuckles there. But hats off to the highway crews, the sheriff's department, community service division, all those people who continue to work through this, much appreciated. Some of you, I think, you probably got the email that we actually sort of shut down the office for one day, and haven't done that yet. Not in my tenure, don't expect to do it much at all. But after talking with Mo, and I know he and the sheriff had talked, that we felt it was in the best interest of everybody not to put the extra 300 cars on the highway and to keep people safe. So fortunately, we think, we didn't have any major issues. I didn't get any complaints from people who said, hey, where were you? Why weren't you open? Because I don't think anybody went out that day.
I called Jay the day before and we talked about it.
Okay, good. You also got an email from me, and I'll bring it up here to make sure everybody knows. If you have not called Tammy yet about setting up your one-on-one session with Bob, Don, and I believe one person from Extension, it's time for our 3-year priority setting goal or session. The one thing I will say, keep in mind that this is, the county has mandated services and things which are our number one priority, right? We go after the community services, the sheriff safety, the highways, all those things are critically important. But we originally started doing this several years ago because we thought, is there more we could do? Is there something that this board of supervisors can do to identify a topic or an issue that we call game changers? Something that we could do. Now think through the things that we did, and we'll do this later at the board meeting, but we have had some things move quite nicely. Broadband, we're doing a lot with CJCC. So we're making some good things happen. This process is going to be a little bit different than last time. You have a one-on-one session. It's a short interview, and then Bob Kazmierski, who's really the king of process around here, he will gather the information and present it to you in the April board meeting for your discussion. But just ask that you do set those up at your earliest convenience so that we can get those done. Also, I just an update, because this committee deals with some very expensive projects, right? And expenditures. And we've been monitoring and talking to the WCA. The governor has come out with a proposed budget. We've been doing some lobbying. The counties have about encouraging the governor to use some of their surplus and pushing it back to local government. So just wanted you to know that, because I know when our general government director and I talk, we look ahead and say, are we going to have enough money to do everything like we're used to doing? And we are making some, I guess, communications known that we would like for the state to loosen up some of their surplus and push back down with our levy limit, which is a good thing. But if the state's gathering money, we'd like to have some of that pushed back down. So I'll keep you updated as time goes on.
Where are we at on that surplus? Is it like 2.5 billion?
Oh, the state? I don't know the exact number, but yeah, it's in the, I think that sounds about right.
How many did you say?
I think it's around 2.5
No, it's
billion.
more than that.
Is it more?
I don't know.
That's Minnesota.
Minnesota's at 7.
I think we're at 2 or somewhere around 2.5. Anybody know, Don? for sure?
Yeah, as of October of last year, which is the most current I can see, it was 4.3 billion.
Yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
not as bad as Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, those are just a couple of things we're keeping our eye on, and we'll keep you updated. That's all I have.
awesome.
Mr. Norby, you're up.
Yes, sir. Just a quick introduction. At the end of the table here is Justin Reese. He's the highway new operations manager that took over from Mr. Kelch. So he's running the outside operation now and scheduling the project. So I wanted you guys to see him and put a face with the name. So he just started last month and has hit the ground running and is doing a fantastic job learning the ropes. So I want to thank Justin, and I also have Rod Polk here with me, facilities manager, to talk about some of the other projects that we have going on further on the agenda. Starting out down at the conference in January, we did get presented a resolution in memory of Larry Jepson down at the conference. So the committee's thoughts on possibly presenting this to the family at one of the future county board meetings or a highway meeting, whether it's in maybe the April timeframe. Just trying to get your thoughts on that, if you'd like to do that, or think about it till next committee meeting, and we can decide at that point.
I think probably Jackie will be in Arizona till right around the end of November or April 1st of May. So I would think our May county board meeting would be the best.
Okay. I'll move that up to for May for that then.
You want to coordinate with her.
Yeah.
Nice if she could attend.
Okay, then an update on project and equipment and division updates, A and B there. For equipment right now, the sign truck that we ordered last year in 2022 budget, the chassis is finally due in on around June timeframe. We got no bids on building the backside of the truck. That includes the compressor, the lift, the man basket, the auger, the box and that. So we're working on bids for that. That is higher than we budgeted for, but that'll come out of our equipment budget. We should be looking to get those costs down to more manageable costs. We're getting bids from just reaching out to vendors now to get bids. The skid steer, brush cutter, boom saw ordered for parks. That should be here in a few months. The used chip spreader we're buying from Burnett County. That's been invoiced and we should be picking that up in the next couple of weeks here. The specs for the 2023 equipment are in progress right now as we got vendors coming in and truck builders trying to get the right specifications done for those. In your packet, we have remote cameras at 3 locations. We had them at the recycling center up in Cushing and down by Alden for snow and ice control. And what we did, right now they've aged out, both the software, the hardware, and the connection points for that. So I'm looking at purchasing, this camera system here that's in your packet. What this gives us the advantage of is it's not just a static camera view that you look through a camera to see if it's snowing. This also gives us road data. It gives us road temperatures, whether the road's wet or dry, dew points, temperature. So when the on-call staff is looking at snow and ice coming in, it gives us a better location and more data for us on that. Looking at installing 3 of these units, one up by W and I, one down by K and 35, and one down by Clear Lake area by A and P down there. So we get a good view of the county. Right now they're $2,200 a year to lease, which would be recovered by savings and overtime driving around trying to see if it's snowing down there and we're getting a better radar picture. And at any time I can cancel those.
Where's K and 35? Where's that one?
Oh, excuse me, X and 35. Down by Farmington down there.
Yeah, okay.
That corner.
Mile north.
Mile north. So we're looking at that to install this summer for use coming up in the next winter cycle. Highway materials are currently out for bids. We open those bids March 20th on a Monday. To see where we stand on asphalt and our materials for projects. Jumping into projects, County Road B, the bridge replacement up in Atlas was awarded to Radke Construction. That will be constructed this year. The bridge on County K, west of Amory, was awarded to Larson Construction. That'll be done this year. The caveat on that one right now is due to the northern long-eared bat going on the endangered species list. County forces will be doing the brush removal there before March 30th. With the new legislation and what's passed with the long-eared bat, there can be no highway brushing and clearing between April 1st and October 30th.
Holy cow.
So right now, we're trying to get clear expectations of what that guidance is. And so right now, it's really putting a bind on trying to get highway projects off the ground this spring. We ran into the same thing on State Highway 65. We got a company coming in March here to try to clear some trees that are due for that project. More bridges. I signed the contracts for the bridges on 35th Avenue and County W. With heirs, those are 2025 construction dates, and the contract for the bridge replacement on County H, just north of Highway 8. That's a 2026 construction. We signed contracts for the bridge on 30th Street down in Clear Lake. That's with Cooper Engineering. That's a 26 build also. County Road F contract was signed with Short Elliott Hendrickson, SEH. That's from View Lane to State Highway 65 for a 26 construction date. And I'm working right now, negotiating the contract with Ayers and Associates for County Road B as in boy from 35 to Z. That's been accelerated to a 24 construction date. From the park side, this year's picnic table order and trash cans have been ordered. Picnic tables are on site. We're waiting for the trash cans to go on that. Rod and his staff are working on the lighting down at Wanderoo still. And we're working with IT on finalizing the reservation system for park reservations down at Apple River and our pavilions at our other parks. The bell tower on Museum, that project, new steps are in place going to the bell tower, a new hatch, new floor with rubber membrane is installed. The windows will be done in the spring due to weather, as soon as we can get in there. There is a large duct in the bell tower that has asbestos on it. We're getting costs to remove that asbestos and remove that ducting from that area. At that same time, we're doing the windows. We're looking at the gutters and the eaves in that area while the lift is on site. And we are now looking at replacement of that roof in the next several years and seeing if we can, through the Historical Society, add metal to that roof to make it a longer lasting roof than we currently have on it now. The museum vestibule project is moving forward, looking at options for that north door to the museum. Government Center project, Good Friday is scheduled right now for the power shutdown for 3 days to install the generator and the switchgear. We're also working in the Health and Human Services side. There were 72 smoke dampers missed by the engineering service on how to get those into the system, whether we add a small compressor just to hold those dampers up or replace all the actuators. Right now, costs are anywhere between $75,000 to $150,000 on that. So we're working on the options for that going through there and also who's paying for it. I'm got the applications working on for replacement of 3 more bridges for Lincoln and Black Brook and 3 more highway projects. The highway projects would be County B from Atlas to 87. County Road E is in Edward from 35 to County I, and County T from US Highway 8 to South Horseshoe Drive. Those applications are due March 23rd. Hope to know in the midsummer or something if we get those projects for more federal funding. The ATV intensive park design and bid documents are completed by staff. The presentation was at ES division on that March 1st for that. Bob's been the lead on that and his crew. We've been assisting with that. And then Bob and I will present the final plan at the board here this month in March 24th. March 1st, Mike Ninke and Rod Polk and myself met with the Friends of the Gandy Group to talk about maintenance. A very successful meeting. They were very pleased with the way things are going with the trails and their concerns on how maintenance was being done and who was doing it. They are on board with us and looks to be a great working relationship with the MOU and everything with that one. Also with that, we had the candlelight walk down on the Stour. We got a nice thank you note for Mike on help from there from the Stour group. They had 300 applicants or participants, I think it was about 300 on there. So that went very well with that. In your handout, I did include from the Traffic Safety Highway Commission, which Brent's group, Mr. Stoffel helps lead, is the traffic data for 2022. With that, so have time, you can look through the crash data for 2022 for Polk County and see how we fared on that. Work Zone Safety Week is April 17th through the 21st. I did not have time to get the resolution on this agenda. So there's a feel-good resolution usually that the counties put out that they support work zone safety. I'll work with Malia and see if we can fast track that to the board in March. So we're ahead of when it's actually work zone safety week.
For our county board meeting, 21st.
Yeah, for the 24th there. We'll get on it for that. Road posting update. A lot of emails going back and forth on the spring thaw. The thaw is coming up from the north on all the data that's coming in. Myself, tentatively, I'm looking at next Wednesday, the 15th at noon to post our 4 county roads we post. State Highway 65 is still undetermined by the state, as the state is still running frozen ground right now. Working with the state, West Sweden and Frederick on a future salt shed building up in the northern part of the county to help us with snow and ice control. Moving forward, hopefully we get some state funding for them to help out Frederick and that and help our county beats up in the northern part of the county. It's division staffing. Currently, we have 14 open positions, including 6 seasonal workers. So we're working on recruiting those. And, you know, it's been a revolving issue with that. And right now with the parks position, seasonals, and the custodian position, we have 1 open there, is not posted currently. We have 4 highway seasonal positions that are posted right now. Those ads have had 254 views, but only 3 applicants. So we're averaging only 1.2% of applying that look at that ad. The recycling labor position, we've had 425 views and only 2 applicants for that one. 0.5% have applied. The highway mechanic position, we've had 320 views on that. So far, 1 applicant for that. So at 0.3%. that view it. Our inventory control specialist is 608 views with only 11 applicants. Little under 2% that applied for that. So we're going through those ads. That is closed now, as well as the highway maintenance worker we're open for. We've had 587 views for that posting. Only 11 applicants have applied for it. Of the 11 applicants, only 33% have commercial driver's license. So that's how we're looking at our staffing right now and trying to fill those. So we're working hard on that to try to get those filled. Just not a lot of people that are applying. We got a lot of views, but how many people applying for it? If there's no questions on that, I will go into the D.D. Kennedy item C.
I have one.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the deferring factor? I mean, somehow we have to address this because you can't function that way, that low of a volume. I mean, let's face it, we used to have 250 applicants, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I know the answer, but I want to hear from you. Okay,
I'm hoping the wage study will show that, you know, wage is a big issue. I mean, you can tell that starting wage. You know, we used to. Most municipalities during budget process used to call me to ask what we're paying our guys, because they'd match that wage, because they didn't want to lose us to the county. You know, and that was just after Act 10 and that, you know, since then, the last couple of years, no one calls on that right now. You know, that's probably the main factor. I'm hoping the wage study will address that system. And move those grids and those grades up to compensate that, because right now, you know, we're averaging this really, we get a lot of views, but we just get no one applying for the job.
yeah, I'm sure it's the same old story on the management side, that we can't raise them without raising others, but what those people have to do compared to others doesn't match up. So,
Yeah, hopefully when they look at the wage study and the grades, when they compare the grades of what licenses and everything they have, well, there'll be some shifting there, because it's discouraging. You get a lot of views, but no one wants to apply for them.
Thank you.
The DD Kennedy Bridge, and hopefully I can answer most of the questions. The guy Rod here is the expert on bathrooms. Look over that. The DD Kennedy restroom project was a project that was approved by PTAG to move forward to replace and enhance that restroom. One of the things they wanted in that was to have a year-round restroom with heated spots for that, for heat. I think we addressed the heat issue when we built a pavilion with a fire ring for the skiers. We went out for RFPs. We got no bids for this. We reached out to local contractors, received no bids. We continue to do this. We finally got one bid. Our bid to come in with a year-round restroom there to replace the existing one was $390,000. You know, so
Build a house for that.
you know, what we're looking at then in your packet is, put it here somewhere. Where is? We're looking at a basic huff cut toilet that comes all in one inclusive package. It shows you the schematic. It's not heated in the winter time, which makes it having a heated restroom in the wintertime makes security a big issue for us. And people going over there and causing problems. This huff cut toilet coming all inclusive is $95,000 plus about $30,000 or $40,000 to hook it up. So we're looking at about $120,000 to upgrade the bathrooms at DD Kennedy. And these are ADA compliant for that. So wanted to bring you this and talk about that, because it's a change in scope from what PTAG approved. But to move forward with the heated bathroom, we're well over budget, and as staff and security with a heated restroom does not make sense as we look more into it for the area. And we have addressed the heated area with the fire ring and the fire ring and burnwood. I mean, it's been used a lot out there, and the skiers seem to be happy with it. It's kind of at the edge of our property line going into the Bible camp property. It's been kind of a win-win. It's been there. We have the hikers and the dogs and the snowshoers on DD Kennedy and Algren, and the skiers have been very happy and content because we've kept them off of their ski trails. So they've been happy too. So we're just kind of looking for, I guess, your concurrence that we can move forward with this scope of project for replacement of those bathrooms and not have heated facilities up there.
They want an open fire pit anyhow.
Right.
They keep, you know, there's shelters, and I think there's shelter in all of them now where they got some wood stored in it, and
Yep, we have a shelter, brand new we built, and that's where
worked
we
that way for years. But do you have with the change, do you have the go ahead on this project?
The idea was to upgrade the PTAG wanted the heated bathrooms, and the clubs wanted that. They seem very content now with their fire ring and fire pit. I I would not recommend going forward with a heated facility at $390,000. The sheriff might have, or Don might have an opinion on having a heated facility out there that's kind of out in the nowhere where people can block open the doors, and security would be an issue out there for that type of system.
So like my question was, do you really have to go ahead to do this, or does some segment have to vote again, like VTAG or something?
I don't
Should be
think
good to
PTAG
go,
does.
shouldn't it?
Right, I don't think PTAG does. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think if I have concurrence from you that this is a way to replace and upgrade that bathroom, we'd like to move forward with this option.
And when you drain this back, it'll have like a dual curb stops thing. You're gonna have to drain it back, right?
Yeah, this actually has a full septic already, so we're just tying back into that.
Okay, but I mean, you gotta drain the water back.
Yep,
Yep.
correct.
So
Yep,
It's
it'll
all
get winterized every
pre-plumbed?
year.
pre-plumbed to drain
Correct.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I make a motion that we approve what's been presented and pass it forward.
Second, I have some discussion.
I'll second it.
I just have an opinion that I think it's wonderful because Kennedy is a tremendous park. I just think today's cost is unbelievable that you cost $120,000. That's all. It just- so, we need the bathroom.
Can you have it in by May 20th? My daughter's getting married there.
We're taking them out about May 15th.
Any other discussion?
This is moving, that was with moving with non-heated.
Correct.
Correct. I mean, heated is fine, he says, but non-heated could use just as, we use just as much, but a
We got
lot
along this, we
quicker.
got along this far.
Yeah.
We would winterize this
Yeah.
every year, so then it would be not usable.
Not usable in the winter.
Correct.
And the county forces are gonna demolish and level up and get ready for the new one, or?
We'd remove, yeah, we're gonna look at removing that, and then we'd hire a contractor to tie this back into our septic and the electric.
You can start May 21st.
He'll be ready.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the bathroom at DD Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes. Anything else, Mo?
The next one on the list is the Clam Falls Dam. Wanted to bring this forward to the county board as originally when we got the dam back, and you remember the history of that, if it was gonna be torn down or removed. We got a $2 million earmark from the legislation to repair the dam, along with a matching grant for excess funds. So we're funded right now to replace the dam at about $3.5 million. Working with our engineer, we tried getting that dam on the south side of County Road I, away from the bridge. That estimate of cost ballooned to about $7 million. So we went back to the drawing board, and what can we do with the existing structure? With the existing structure, to make it, keep the lake level the same, is the drawing that you see in front of you, which is called a Tainer Gate. To make that one, keep the lake level the same, is the Tainer Gate. That's this one right here. And on the back side, you can see the estimate for that. Comes in at $4.6 million. It does have a high contingency of almost $750,000 with that. Talking with the engineers, we're still looking at, we're gonna be about $4.6 million. Now, question was asked also of the what else could we do to get it down to $3 million? They could do a different style structure with an open platform and gate across it, but we'd have to lower the lake approximately 4 to 5 feet. And that flowage is not that deep. You know, you'd still have your main flowage, but 4 feet's a huge drastic elevation change. So we're looking at 4.6 million. If we go to remove the dam and do it that way with the project, the estimate given us today was $2 to $3 million to remove and restore the riparian back to its native land, back to the native, what was there. The caveat to that, the 2 million that was earmarked from the state for that grant was earmarked to repair the structure. It's not very clear that that $2 million grant we could even use it to remove the dam. So I wanted to bring this forward to the committee, not knowing how much we have to do. I mean, if we go with the 4.6 million, naturally, we probably have to go to general government and Don and ask for more money, which his pockets aren't out yet, so might have some stored up somewhere. Or, you know, is this something that we should talk about in the committee of the whole at a county board meeting, being that we have, you know, the Lake District that they made their TID district and they've given us money, you know, for insurance and on that. Kind of a little bit, need a little bit guidance on how the county board wishes to proceed with this. And do you want, should I bring back more information, Rod and myself, or what direction should we go with this? Sorry, that's a lot of mouthful, but this emails have been coming in the last couple week or so on this thing.
And part of the caveat on that is there is asbestos in the old structure. And we don't know, we haven't got guidance yet if the DNR is going to let us just encapsulate that with a slurry or class 5 that we are still waiting on.
Or would we have to remove the inside of the existing structure to build the Tainer gate with it? So that's one number we do not have right now. Another option is to go complete the design and go through the bid process and see where the bids land. That time we'd be out some engineering costs, but we know exactly where we land on the cost.
How much of this increase is due to just inflation versus what you found with the bores and how much deeper it is to bedrock and stuff? What were the constituents that contributed to
The rise to the $7 million mark was from the size of the sediment. According to the engineers, because the sediment was so deep, the concrete structure had to be expanded to a certain point so the structure wouldn't float, which added a lot to it. Right now, the current estimate is done off of concurring projects around the state. I think the last one was bid in Sheboygan County. So they're going off those numbers right now, but inflation is a big factor on trying to hit that number.
And the contingency, you said it was sort of outsized. Are there specific things that are increasing your pucker factor on this, or?
That's a pretty high contingency, for this style of project. With that, 20%, that's pretty high. You can always come in a little lower and try to mitigate that through construction management, but at this point, there's just not a good number until you have the cost of concrete.
I just wondered if you had any, you were worried about any specific technical or environmental or conditions that you might feel we're at risk of encountering in building or anything.
Not from DNR as yet. The only one that's outlier is the asbestos in the current dam. That's the only outlier right now.
Question is, and I don't have very much knowledge of this. Straight sheet pile, they go in tight dam. And that's what the town of Lake looked at also. And it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than the other side.
That style wouldn't work due to the soil composition. They want to tie this structure into bedrock.
So of that $7 million quote, $3.5 million was concrete. Yeah, so there's a lot of concrete because they'd have to go so deep.
And that's why we scrapped the south side.
Longevity wise, is this, do you expect a lifetime of this comparable to what we originally envisioned?
Yes,
And the engineers determine how many years it would stand without doing anything to it. I hate to be the devil's advocate.
I can ask the question. I mean, it does have that Tainer gate is that big gate that opens up, kind of like an ice cream scoop. It's gonna have maintenance and long-term, maintenance on it. There's no doubt about it.
And if we do the Tainer Gate style, there's still going to be man hours going up there in springtime or a large rain event where we have to manually open that gate. The spillway will contain it on just an average day. But if we have a large rain event in the spring with our runoff and melt, then we'll have to go up there to manually adjust that gate.
Staff will still be going up there. If you drop the lake level to that 4 to 5 feet and have one continuous gate across it, you'd have no man hours in it.
And that type of design would look like our D.D. Kennedy Bridge or the Atlas Bridge, where it's just a labyrinth type spillway.
Just spills over.
I'd have to go back and look at the minutes and read up on what we discussed because I can't really remember, but we didn't discuss these kind of numbers when we looked at this thing.
No.
So,
No.
We're way up.
Exactly. And Mo has gone back to heirs. I think their original estimate 5-6 years ago or 4 years ago was 1.5 million. Then they came back with 2.3, 2.5, something like that. Then they went into this new design, the depthness of the sediments. We had budgeted about 3.5 million or planned for that. So the 4.6 or, I think there are ways, hopefully we can go back and say we need to somehow figure out how much this is going to be less. But if it's going to be $1 million more than we budgeted, then it's probably something that we should discuss with this group and the board to make sure. Now, the other new number that Mo mentioned today was to remove it, the cost of 2 to 3 million. That wasn't the original number either. So, but if you remove it at 2 to 3 million, the cost is prohibitive when you think we won't be getting the 2 million that was given by the state. So from a financial standpoint, we should continue to look at, okay, how can we get this cost down with the plan to move forward? Unless policy-wise, we say, let's get out of the business of dams altogether and eat the loss. And that's why we're bringing it to you.
On my vote.
Mr. Chair. I'm completely on the other end of the county, and I think I haven't done a survey, of course, but I've sure talked to a lot of people about this. When this came out, that we were getting that 2 million from the state, and when we voted, proceed with that. Everybody seems to have a bad taste of what we did with the Woodley Dam. It's, it's an eyesore forever. And as long as I've been around, I think that's the most praise that the county that I've heard is when we have decided to go ahead and repair that and maintain what there is in homes and everything there. I mean, it's a lot of money, yeah, no doubt about it. Everything is, and you go down, keep on going down the line, it's gonna be more money. But I don't think the people would support something like there is down at Woodley. I think that we've got the support to go ahead, and I think we've got support around the county to do this right.
What I'm trying to think of red tape or headaches associated with that if you were to just get out of the dam business and put this back to the way God made it to begin with. I mean, is it as simple as just saying that, spending 2.3 million and blowing the thing up? Or I guess I'm just wondering what kind of picketers we're gonna have outside our houses doing that.
So I know Clam Falls set up their district around there for taxes to put money towards that and help maintaining the insurance on it. If we replace the dam, you know, so I mean, there is gonna be some component of political side of that.
Yeah, it was a pretty strong commitment that the
Yep.
board made. I mean, it wasn't a close vote. I think at the final vote, it was, I think it was unanimous to proceed.
Oh, yeah.
And financially, at this point, if you just look at the numbers, you'd say, if these numbers are accurate, you know, we lose more money if we tear it down now, if that's the case, if it's 2 to 3 million, which again blows out the original estimate multiple times.
So that's the only other answer we don't have a answer to is that the supplemental grant we had that was matching funds for the overages. How far will that go? Will that cover another million and we are only on the hook for $500,000? Or is after a certain point, are we online for everything?
Oh,
You know, a lot of state funding for highways and stuff. They'll match 20, you pay your 20% up until this threshold and then you're on the hook for everything else. But that's a number that we have to still get from DNR to see if that grant can. What's the limit on that grant?
that seems consequential then to
Yeah,
the question, yeah.
We have a pretty nice tax base there with the dam in place. If you take that dam out, you lose a whole lot of tax base like we have down in Woodley.
Or, well, Woodley didn't have tax base this,
Oh, no,
not near.
but I mean, it's still a eyesore.
Well,
you know, we can, as staff, we can start looking at numbers and keep trying to get these answers, you know, like these. The one email came, you know, enough time last week to get it on the agenda. Subsequently, our last emails came right around 12 o'clock today on whether the original grant, the 2 million would cover this or not. Removal, so we'll go with, we'll get back with the engineering and see about tightening those numbers, what it is. I mean, they're pretty firm right now. We don't know unless we bid, but we'll get those questions asked from the DNR.
Has the DNR supplied any grant money at all in this?
Yeah, the 2 million and then a matching grant on top of that for items over.
So
the
the
2 million.
legislature funded the 2 million through the DNR? is what you're
Yes,
saying?
the DNR administrator. They call it a grant, but it's the earmarked funds.
So what do we need to do here? Do we need to do we bring this up to the full board in some way?
I don't think until you get answers on those
Right.
grants and stuff, what they will pay for, we'll know what we can do.
Yeah, this was our first
Kick of the cat.
throwing it out to you, just so you know that this is what is happening. I think if we get more information and as we get it, then we can bring it forward and make it better. Because right now, we're not ready to say what the total cost is going to be to the taxpayer, what the DNR is gonna pay. What are the options? So maybe we wait till we get that and then we'll keep you updated next month.
good move.
Put it on the agenda and get more answers.
Any other questions for Mo? Are you getting there? Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Questions? So can you bring us up to date on Highway 65? Due for bid for construction this summer? But there isn't any movement on those, what we call 3 suicide hills or suicide corner.
Right now, bids came in February 14th. Matthew was the low bid on that one, Monarch. The tree removal will start in March, where the fatality was down there. Those hills do get knocked down. The
So
ones
the
that,
three hills are gonna have some
Yes.
movement.
yeah, those get knocked down there at near 30th Avenue.
That's everybody's question.
Yeah, those do get corrected. The one from Larson by the Larson farm.
Yep.
Between the Fs, that one, I haven't seen anything on what they proposed for that, but it'll go back pretty much the way it is on that one.
That's the suicide one right there. That's where most of the accidents are. On
That
Larson,
Emerson or Emerson one?
where that Larson lives on the left side there, and then you turn on. The road. That, something's gotta be done with that one.
But I can contact the state engineer and try to get some cut sheets to show how that's gonna look.
That's so well known over the young, especially the young drivers, that they've got contests about.
They are planning to put, try to get 2-foot paved shoulders on that road
It does,
where they have.
but I've seen the shoulders are all paved.
Right, they are gonna put centerline rumble strips down it for safety. In the wider areas, it'll have edge line rumble strips. There is new legislation that passed federal highway that doesn't right now affect our county. Due to autonomous vehicles now, they're changing the center line to be 6-inch yellow lines on each side versus 4. Right now, standard is 4.64 with a 6-inch gap in the middle.
Mhm.
ADTs over 6,000 are gonna go to a 6.66, so 18-inch wide center line for autonomous vehicles. If they push that ADT down to our county system, that'll increase our costs about 33% for line painting. Which will increase highways budget approximately about $45,000 in paint each year to get those lines widened out that far.
I don't know where it come from, but I heard that since the fatality, that the DOT has gotten so much info from people that they're gonna revisit this.
Any call we get on that road, we push to the state engineer.
Well, they've no doubt got a lot of recent information.
Any other questions from all? Not, we'll hear from Sheriff Walker.
All right, thank you. I would just reiterate what Vince said about the highway shop helping us with or getting the roads plowed this winter. It's been amazing. And the last storm event, we had the big storm a couple weeks ago. Plow trucks literally led ambulances to call in a few parts of our county. So it's nice to work with the highway shop, and I think they've done a great job this year.
Thanks.
We had 3 retirements in the past month at the sheriff's office. Captain Dale Hall, he retired. And then also 2 jail sergeants, losing over 50 years of experience in the jail. Sergeant Tim Johnson retired. He had 31 years in corrections between Douglas County and Polk County. And then Sergeant Scott Pittman, he retired. Well-deserved retirements. That's kind of what we all work for. So I'm happy, but I'm sad to see them go. With that, we did promotions. Mike Stoffel was promoted to patrol captain to replace Dale Hall. And he's assumed that position already and he's up and running. And then Justine Lehman replaced Scott Pittman in the jail. And also Justin Zacharias replaced Tim Johnson. So we've shuffled the cards around and these are tough decisions. I can tell you as the sheriff, it's a good problem to have when we have so many good people. Those are tough choices, but it's very competitive. So I'm excited for the new leadership that we have at the sheriff's office.
Any new hires then?
Working on that, always working on that. We are full staffed in dispatch. We are one position down in patrol with Captain Hall's vacancy that opened up a position, so. And then in the jail, I think we're 2 positions down with those retirements. So we're constantly recruiting, constantly working on that, but it is an uphill climb. We did have 2 fatalities in February. We just talked about the one on Highway 65. And I know the road gets blamed a lot, but honestly, this was a bad decision that resulted from this fatality. And I expect we'll see a criminal charge at some point once we get the whole thing completely sewn up. You know, if people go to that highway to use it as a thrill ride, that's a bad thing. And I always tell people your car is to get you from point A to point B, not to be out trying to catch a thrill ride. So there's a reason that fatality happened, and speed is going to be a major factor in that. Then in the storm, the rain we had the other morning on February 27th, that resulted in a car losing control, a driver losing control and going into the ditch and rolled several times, and that driver was pronounced dead at the hospital. So we've had 2 fatalities. That's troubling, of course. You know, we'd like to see 0, but we'll continue to work. We do participate in highway safety meetings at the sheriff's office level, and you know, we have higher speed rural county roads, so that's typically why we see a few more fatalities than our neighbors. Some positive news. We got a FEMA check this week for approximately $76,000. And that was submitted by Lisa McMahon in Emergency Management to recover the costs of the use of our command posts through COVID and also some of Mo's hours. So we got to sit down and figure those amounts and split that up a bit with the highway shop, but that's a good thing to recover some of that cost. We'll be asking for this. This is going to come up at general government, just to give you the heads up, but you know, our jail food contract, they asked for us to, they opened the contract up and renegotiated with us because of inflation, and it's no different than these projects. Everything has gone up. So the cost of feeding our jail inmates has gone up considerably. So we've worked hard, and I think we came to a pretty solid resolution on it and got the price down as fair as we're going to get. So I'm happy with that. That'll go to the full board, well, first general government, but just giving you the heads up to that you will see a budget amendment coming up for the jail service contract. We do have our canine in training. That's going exceptionally well. The dog is going to graduate in May. So once we get the dog graduated, I'll certainly bring the dog over and show you. It is amazing to see those dogs go from being out of control puppies to these well-trained machines. So really excited about that. I get to always attend that graduation, and it's down at St. Paul. And that's really an amazing event. Don Burrows will talk in a few minutes about some other projects, but do you have any other questions? That's all I have right now.
Well, we still have this.
Oh, the donation. Yes, and that was from Sandra Johnson and Linda Milliron, their parents' estate. They wanted to donate money to law enforcement, and specifically for canine. They wanted that money to go towards canine stuff. So we're happy to have that support. And again, we often see donations, and that's a fantastic thing how our community really likes their law enforcement. So last year they donated on behalf of their parents' estate to St. Croix County. This year they wanted to give some money to Polk County. So I believe it was $1,000. So we'll ask for your acceptance of that in the resolution.
One of the mill irons is a retired police officer in Richmond, so.
Right, and then the brother was a corrections officer, I believe, for his career. So they've got that tie to law enforcement, and they, some of them attend our law enforcement venison feed every year too. So
Good people.
real nice people.
Well, you need to accept the money. You wanted a motion to accept, is that correct?
Yeah, it's part of the policy on donations to have the board approve the donation, the acceptance.
Well, we would need to forward this to the board for.
You can make a recommendation.
Right, I make a recommendation that we present this to the full board with approval of accepting the donation.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of resolution 02-23, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. One other thing I'll mention before Don comes up is Don has been working with a dealer and found a dealer that's willing to work on the command center, the RV. So that's encouraging. We've got to get some numbers finalized, but he did find a dealer that is willing to actually take on the project. So that's exciting to see that get going forward. Right, Don?
Mine's pretty brief. So, yeah, the command post, I brought it over to Lazy Days RV. It's up over in Ramsey, Minnesota. They looked it over and said that this is something that they can easily do. We had a gentleman that was locally that was looking at doing it, but he backed out on us. So it's been real difficult trying to find a company to work on this type of project. So it seems pretty promising, and I'll have more details down the road about it. Our towers, we got our RFPs in on the tower generators. They came in under budget. So we got 3 of those. We're putting it through the contract approval to get it all going. The 3 generators came in at like 67,000 or 69,000, so under the $100,000. Also with our towers, the microwave system, all equipment appears to be here now. And this spring they'll be starting get the microwaves replaced on the towers. It's been challenging for them to get the products they need for this project to get completed. And then the new tower over in Taylor Falls is up and functional. They just have to run one fiber optic cable from one tower to the next over in Milltown to finish up that project. We have the PSAP project coming up. That's the new next gen 911 system. We got the grant. We're working through it. That'll be on the budget amendment as well for funding for that project. We're working with Bob Kazmarski's team on the GIS. So that should be coming up here at the general government and then county board. Any questions for me at all?
Good job.
Supervisor Rowdy, you'd be next.
I'll go through this real quick. As usual, I just think we had a wonderful meeting. And one of the issues that was talked about was a trail from Clear Lake to Cedar Lake, and that's just my terms I wrote down here. And they're trying to put that in order, and it's being used with signs. And the next thing is they're talking of re-signing the Gandy. So they had a real nice discussion on moving forward with that. And they have a meeting, Thursday night with the snowmobile. So they can discuss more with who's going to do what. That's pretty much what I have.
Sounds like there's pretty good cooperation now between the tower and trails, isn't there?
You can probably ask, but I think there is, yes.
You mentioned something.
Another thing on when Vince was talking about projects that we proposed for the future, the last 3 years, we've been, one of the projects that we had discussed and were, positive on was the ATV, UTV projects and trails in Polk County for recreational purposes, basically. And that's a good example of what's happened there as far as the enthusiasm and the public support and the support from the ad hoc groups and how important it is to identify a project, put some effort in it as a members of the board. And you can see what happened with ATV and Doug's efforts to get things organized and rounded up. And it's been tremendous progress on that particular project.
I guess that's, what was said there is, these guys got to thank these guys.
Well,
I mean, that's what he's doing, but I'm looking at them and
Right.
they put this time and effort into everything, and I just think it's
No
fantastic.
question about it.
Yep. Thank you.
They're like the apostles of Polk County.
Okay, so we need an update for I guess we kind of missed our public hearing, but there's nobody here for it, right?
Yeah, we're good.
So update from CJCC.
Chair, I could provide that. Melissa's out of a doctor's appointment. So we currently have 23 total people in our diversion programs. That's 2 in first-time offender, 9 in the intoxicated driver program, 3 in substance diversion. And I'll just remind folks that for years and years, we had 0 in that particular program. And we're holding steady with 9 in treatment court. From a staff perspective, we've got an open position. The substance diversion case manager, Tyler Harrison, has moved over and become the treatment court case manager. So we've got an open position for the diversion case manager. You have to answer any questions.
Any questions? Next graduation.
Oh, next graduation. I think we're way out and I don't have the exact date. Sir.
Okay,
But
well,
I'm
we'll hear it as time goes on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we've got our public hearing.
All right. So this is a follow-up to a couple months ago, I believe it was December actually, when we had that proposed rural addressing ordinance draft. So call the public hearing to order at 3:05. That's okay, Mr. Chair. So the draft that we handed out to you back then is the same draft as what was proposed for today here. Basically, there's no policy changes in the rural addressing ordinance. There's a lot of cleanup, or I'll say language changes to try to take and make it comply with the next generation 911 handbook that came out in October. So that's what the purpose was behind this change and amendment. If adopted, this would go to the county board and that on March 21st, and then that would be effective and that the week after the 29th, and that so all of our ordinances for the land use side become effective upon publication. With that, I guess I'll open it up for any other questions you might have.
Just have one reading that proposal that you have changes in.
Yep.
The only thing I noticed with the ice, I don't go out and drive around if I don't have to because the yard is so bad. But the one thing you said in there was you're gonna have a fire number. You're talking the private roads into the lakes. They have a fire number at their home. It said, the way I read it, it said there should be a fire number at the road sign.
So
Like 271st, whatever.
the way that that was written in that is in those ones that are like a private drive going back and they're not actually named as a road. So a lot of times when we actually term them as a private road, they would have a name on it. And then the fire number signs would go back by each person's dwelling or their main driveway where it kicks off from the private road, if you will. And then in those cases, there would be a street sign out by the town road or county road, wherever they are. Underneath that provision, what it's talking about is actually a driveway where we've got 1787 A, B, C, D right now, and that most of those signs are posted wherever the town road or the county road is. What that provision is to try to do is to get people to put them back where their driveways kick off, because otherwise you drive down these driveways and that with 5, 6 houses on them and you have no idea which one is A or B. So we haven't actually used that provision much because we've been trying to get them readdressed and that so that they have a physical location, because the bad thing with the signs is it's fine, but they were done throughout the years as each property was developed. So there's no sequence in a lot of those addresses as far as 1727, 1727A, B, et cetera, and that there's no sequence. It was that lot got built here first, then they went down at the end. So then that was A, then they came through, they subdivided the land in between. Now we've got C and D and E, just kind of a mess throughout there. So that's what that provision's trying to
I read, must have read some of it.
give guidance in those situations. So, I had talked with Mole and that back then about the towns and the counties and who's responsible for the street signs, you know, in that, in each case. So all that text is in there too, which was a good clarification. Because we hadn't had that before. So, yeah, Supervisor Bonprice.
So 2 years, in the past, there was this conflict over on Holmes Court with those people,
Mm-hmm.
and we had made an agreement with them, and I gotta apologize, I've been over to Regions every day the last 2 weeks. So I just got this, I just got my agenda in the mail yesterday, and I wasn't able to answer them. I've got a text on here from one of the residents, and I got some calls from the hazards in Florida. And so how does this affect Holmes Court and that agreement that we made?
Well, that is separate and that from the addressing ordinance. And that, I don't know if you want to take both of those agenda topics right now and that as part of the public hearing, or if you want to do it, but it would be separate from this ordinance amendment.
So are they gonna be subject to a change with this?
And that you guys, and that approved an exemption in that 2018, 2019 time period. I believe it was resolution 6818. And so at that time, they were exempted out. But what we're also bringing up today is the reason why I got back on your agenda is a week ago last Thursday, I had received an email from the gal that's in the new house at the end of the road. And they're having a lot of issues with delivery services, with GPS. They're also having issues accordingly. I guess when you apply for some of these college scholarships nowadays, they have self-populating address fields. So their daughter hasn't been able to apply for some scholarships out there. I believe there's been some change in ownership where the Hazards actually own one of the properties that has got a 62nd Avenue address. So there's issues in that because us as staff can't assign them a compliant address without going against your guys' ordinance and your guys' policy and without going against everything that the state is doing with next generation 911, trying to find properties easier. But yeah, at the same time, and that the county has a known issue out there. And that known issue and this kind of falls back to Malia about what kind of liability or what kind of responsibility does the county have to take, if any. So
I'm not confused. These phones, I don't know, this is an iPhone. Chuck Melky called me, and he said he left a message on my iPhone he wanted me to read, and I had Vince look at it and he couldn't figure it out either. But he said, back when you had made this other change and then rescinded it, that his, I think it was 1062 or something on Holmes Court was the same as somebody over in Nokomis. And you had instituted it for like 5 weeks and then we rescinded it. And so he said the mailman told him at that time, well, been here long enough and I know the two and I can distinguish your mail. But there was 2 of them with the same address. And
well, we didn't touch Nokomis at all, and that we only did Holmes Court because we had the addressing
yeah, it
trigger.
just happened to
of that
be in
new-
that time frame. That would be the same as.
Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of opposition back then, and so that definitely impacted the rollout of that addressing change. And because we weren't able to roll it out in an effective manner, because there was all of this, I mean, remember, we had months and months of meetings and that of interim addressing. And
And I
that we
think we
weren't able to
satisfied everybody.
execute that address change like we would a normal one to make sure it was clear. I will give a lot of our towns in that credit for our addressing. The county of Marathon went through and did a whole rural address change throughout the whole county. They ended up actually in a lawsuit with the town of Rib Mountain over the deal. But they're doing the same stuff, and that is what we've been doing here in Polk County
luckily, we've had a lot of support in that from our local towns and our towns wanting to buy new fire number signs because the county's addressing system first came about in 1980. So our signs are getting to be 42, 43 years old. They were the old one-sided signs. The paint has fallen off a lot of them. They're just basically a normal steel sign. And so our office has been working with the towns, ordering all the new signs. We directly just pass on the cost of the signs that the town wants to replace. But in exchange for that, we do a complete review of all the addresses in the town to make sure that they are going to be compliant addresses. And then the county shares the cost of any replacement numbers and that we do with them. It's a win-win for the county because otherwise, if we just have to go out and change them all out, then we have to pay the towns for the installation for the sign and for the post. So right now we're sharing about a 50-50 cost. So that's been good. With that though, I mean, we've changed roughly 600 addresses in the last year. I think it's important to point out that the addressing ordinance has an exception clause. So if somebody is really aggrieved by an address change, then they would come through you guys for that process. And you haven't seen one address in that before you guys in the last year. So I think that just goes for and that proving that there is a lot of addresses out there that are causing people a lot of issues. People are using a lot of their cell phones and stuff. And so by bringing all these addresses into compliance, and a lot of people are able to find their properties better, you know, and then give their address to their friends and stuff so that they can locate their property. So that's just a kind of a huge pitch for the towns. We're trying to work with more towns now on kind of converting it over because it's a win-win for everybody involved. So.
The nice bright addresses, that's a big safety issue.
You know, and that is, it is amazing. You go into the towns, so I can rattle them off if you want, but we did West Sweden in 2022. We did Beaver, we did Lincoln. We're working with Blackbrook right now. And that Clayton, Clear Lake, we're done a few years back. Bone Lake was done, I think 2 years ago. Clam Falls, Lorraine, we're all done too. We've got pretty good, we've heard from the town of Sterling that they're gonna probably do it as well. So it's about as much as we can handle. And I know it's kind of sounds piecemeal, but I mean, it's about as much as we can handle in our office too, to do a few towns in a year and that to get them all coming through and ordered. So, and the signs that we're ordering right now are a really good deal. They're roughly about $17 a piece. And that we're passing on to the towns. And compared to years in the past, we've been up in that $32 price range. So it's a good time to take advantage of it. So it's.
System seems to be going fairly smoothly. It's a lot better than it used to be. Remember relayed one story of when we had fire numbers. Each fire district had their own numbering system and stuff. The lady from south of Amory moved to up north of Highway 8 and took a fire number with her. You know, needless to say, about a year or so later, she had a fire and they went in the wrong direction. So I think we eliminated those possibilities nowadays with this system.
And I'll go on a little bit more onto that. Kind of what started this was in the town of Clam Falls, actually. It was a private drive and that was going in. And there was only a fire number out by the road. And then going back in, there was several houses in that they couldn't find. And an older couple was living back there. It was in the Seven Pines Lodge condo plat there. And she had a stroke, was laying there on the floor. And he was, of course, you know, trying to help her. And he watched the ambulance drive by 3-4 times out on 340th Avenue because they didn't know where to turn in. And simply by having a road name or number out there would have told them where they should have been on 340th. So it pinpoints that location on the road based on our grid. So the town of Clam Falls was the first one to jump on, and Lorraine followed right after that. And so, yeah, it's been a good program. I think also our northern towns are seeing a lot more automatic mutual aid responses because of the fire departments and ambulance services up there not being able to get enough staff. So When I was on the fire department, everybody knew, oh, that's Harry's farm
Yeah.
or wherever, you know, and that as you're getting on your gear, and that the old timers knew exactly where to go. Not so much nowadays. So that's what's making these addresses more important. So.
That's really old time.
You got a new crop of old timers coming.
Yeah, well, yeah, not quite that old.
So
Right, Johnny?
Mhm.
I haven't really jumped into the Holmes Court issue and that totally, but I think
I don't know
if
if
you
you
want to,
wanna
Well, we'll never resolve it.
keep that,
Here.
just combine it with this and talk about it right now, or you wanna?
Well, it is,
Hearing.
it's a public hearing. I'd rather close the hearing.
yeah.
Yep.
All right.
So with that, we'll close the hearing at 3:18.
Need a motion to close it, or do you just? do
Nope, and that now, if you guys are okay with the addressing ordinance as proposed, and that we would just need a motion to recommend approval to the full county board. And if that motion is granted, then we've got it set up and that would be on the consent agenda for the March 21st meeting.
Make a motion that we approve the motion or resolution as presented and move it to the full county board.
A second. Motion made and seconded to forward resolution 11-23 to the county board. Those in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chair,
He's here for the public hearing. I don't know if you saw him.
Oh,
Just want to make sure people.
we're sorry.
Oh,
This is in regard to Holmes Court, address changes.
And well,
I think we can just
He was here,
discuss
but
that.
if you want to take his comments and that when we're on that agenda topic, you can do that, or he can speak during public comment, but it'd be on that matter. So,
I think we can hear his comment when we get to the next item.
Okay.
Sorry about.
That's okay. Just have one thing to say.
oh, yep, hold it.
It'd be nice to have this tabled or whatever the terms are. I'm sorry, I apologize for my terminology or whatever it is, but a lot of those people on Holmes Court are retired and some are down in Florida or whatever. It would be nice to maybe have this retabled or whatever the term is for the summer months so they can come and give their opinion, because basically they stated a lot of stuff back in 2018 for the reason why we don't need an address change on Holmes Court. Everybody's fine with it. Everybody knows where we are. Seems like the only, people that have a problem with it is the zoning office. So I mean, there's no reason the thing's gonna be changed 3 times in 28 years. The address, so it just seems, everybody knows where we are. The first responders don't have a problem with us. DNR doesn't have a problem with us. The Forest Service doesn't have a problem with us. It just seems that somebody wants to get a change, or an entity wants to get a change because they can do it. Just doesn't seem like there's a legitimate reason for it. Back in 2018, I wish I was at the meeting, but basically it was stated that, well, the 911 system, that was proved by Joel and Heidi Hazard, who live on the road, that the 911 system was not a problem. And then something got brought up about the phone system is okay, but we want to update it. Well, they were offering to buy a new phone system for $27,000 just to keep their address in this. This is not like an address that's up in the woods. This is on Big Lake on the west side. It's about 3 blocks long. Everybody knows where we're at. When you do a Google search or a map search, it all comes up on all the searches where we're at. There's no problem. FedEx doesn't have a problem. First responders don't have a problem that I've talked to about locating us. So, it's like a third change in 28 years or whatever it is. I've been up there since 1990. The old address is rural route box B and A, and B and A was next to me. We can understand back when 911 was implemented. Yes, definitely. We can see, instead of having row boxes or whatever the argument was, having an actual address, which we did. And the system is just fine with it. So yeah, maybe there are other townships that need to, update their addresses or something, but in Garfield Township, section 36 on the west side of Big Lake, there's no need for it. Plus, can you imagine, you'd have to redo your wills and your trust accounts and your driver's license. It's, doesn't seem to be, feasible for it to be changed again. This will be the third time now, so $75 sign fee. I don't know. Still some cost and it's just no need for it. I mean, everybody knows where the street is. It's very easy to find. Just to say, I guess I'll just thank you for your time.
Okay, could you give her your name for the record?
Charles Melke, Mielke. I live at 609 A is an Apple Holmes Court, Osceola, Wisconsin. And Joel and Heidi Hazard sent a 4 or 5 page thing back in 2018, or when you guys were talking about this, and yeah, I'm sure they were there along with a bunch of other people, because this is July. And they had multiple reasons, documented that there's no reason for this address change. They had the 911 system checked out with the current or old system that you had. And he said, well, if you guys want a new phone system, I'll pay for it. So I think it ended up being like $27,000 or something. So it would be nice to see if that paperwork that they sent to all the supervisors were in some kind of file that you guys could maybe take a look at. And if not, maybe at least, he can contact you or you can contact him and go over that again.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
On the topic now.
You're on the topic of that. So this wasn't zoning, unlike the comment that you just heard that tried to take and put this back on your agenda. This, what I'm handing out is a series of emails that I mentioned earlier briefly there from Melissa Schultz. She's got a new house at the end of Holmes Court. And then you gotta start at the second page, because that was the first email that she had sent to me, and then you can see my responses and stuff about why we put it on your agenda. So again, she raises a question of the addressing out there. And how they've tried to, work with it. And tried to follow the exception that the county did at the time. Back then, Jeff Fugie, I believe, was acting county administrator and, or interim county administrator and acting corporation counsel. So we worked through, it was about a year's worth of committee meetings, talking about the Holmes Court situation. The Hazards did do several presentations as well as other people that were on the road, and that trying to prevent the change from happening. We had went through in our office and ordered all the signs just like a normal time and that we would do. We actually reached out to the fire chief, which was Mark Knutson, which was of Dog or the Dresser Osceola Garfield Fire Association at the time. We had his approval before doing the change. We had also reached out to the town chair and actually had approval of the addressing change before we went through and sent out any letters. So that was all done ahead of time. We were trying to work with the town and our responders and that to make sure they were on board with it. So we had those approvals and then we went ahead and reassigned it. And the issue with Holmes Court is that it's currently assigned as a street. So those of you that are familiar with the area, Big Lake is in the southern portion of the county and it's between Alden and Garfield. And County Road K is 60th Avenue. So 60th Avenue means that it's 6 miles north of the South County line. The addresses on Holmes Court right now currently go all the way down to 600. The Schultz's property is beyond there. So in order to assign any address off from Holmes Court, it would have to be smaller, like in the 599 category. And which then is going to geo-reference to some property that's going to be south of 60th Avenue. So if you're driving out to that property, 599 Holmes Court, should be south of the county highway there. So that was an issue, and that because that's gonna be a non-compliant address. Melissa also brings up in there about assigning an alpha character. And alpha characters don't have a geographical location because you don't know where that A or B is. Just like I was talking, a lot of our private drives and that are not sequential, they're random based on when they were developed. And so if we assign another alpha character, that would be a non-locatable address, and that would also be against our addressing ordinance provision. So why we threw it on your agenda, because we had to have it out on that Friday, the following day. Since then, I had received the email that's on the first page there where they don't wish to take and change the addresses. But we wanted to bring it up to your guys' attention because one, staff doesn't have anything to assign that property that would be compliant with our addressing ordinance. And two, what kind of liability is on the county now, knowing that we've got 27 to 29 residences out there that have non-compliant addresses. So, and as Malia said, if you guys are concerned about the liability, and that would be maybe a topic for a closed session at your next meeting. But for right now, I just wanted to take and make you guys aware of what's going on. Yeah, Supervisor Bonaprise.
Well, I sure think, I believe this last lot, I think they split that lot and then created that situation on the end. And with this, receiving this at a meeting here, we certainly need to table this. For one reason, for us to understand it, do the right thing. And, these people, I wasn't able to get back to them, and I think we need to be fair with what the decision we made 2 or 3 years ago and address this properly. I think everything is working fine, and yeah, this lady has to have an address on the end because she split that lot.
Right, and a lot of this,
Table is, we certainly can't make the right decision today.
a lot of these issues are not government, growing pains, and that as properties are subdivided in that you can only have so many addresses. And the issue in this case is Holmes Court is roughly 1/3 of a mile and that north of County Road K. So that only gives us 33 addresses, half on each side. So there's 17 addresses roughly. That can be evens and odds. And that's where you get all the alpha characters to come in, because normally on our normal grid system, one address per 100 feet. Well, you get a road and that curves like this, they're going around the lake, and now you've got 100-foot lots that were developed on that road. You can see where you eat up through the addresses. So the reason why we changed it to an avenue, and that is because that road, we could stretch it out as far as our addressing range. We could stretch it out into the lake, big lake, not hit any other roads that were named the same. And then that ultimately gave us a lot more address points so that we could avoid all the A's and B's and that out there. Versus a street, we were hitting 60th Avenue, so County Road K, if that makes sense.
But just as a point of clarification, would there need to be a postponing to a date certain of the update of the ordinance?
No.
No, so I think just because you haven't made a motion on the ordinance, moving that on.
They did make a motion. Yep.
Oh, you
Yep,
did, okay,
yep.
so you're just talking about postponing to a date certain, the topic of the Holmes Court.
Correct.
Absolutely, and I think that makes sense.
Basically the Holmes Court exception. I mean, that's what we're
Yeah.
basically, and that's up to you guys if you want to even revisit that. I'm just trying to bring it up to you guys, and that what I've got for area resident out there and the issues that they're having. And I know that with Jill's side, and that it's a mess and that out there right now, because what we've been doing with these historical road names, there's a lot of ties to them. People want to live on a certain named road. So what we've been doing is we've been keeping, the Holmes Court sign there and the 62nd Avenue sign.
That's the agreement that was
And that-
made, and that should be
Yep.
honored.
And that's what we've been doing. And then as part of that, though, then the fire number signs on that road are to the 62nd Avenue address, because then they follow the grid system. And Holmes Court is not unique, like I said, and then at Deer Lake Park, another one right on the west side of Deer Lake that we just reassigned this summer. Goes up, serves another 30 of them. You know, they still have that historic road name sign out there. And that, but yet their addresses have been converted in that so that they actually locate correctly.
I think that's the thing that we want to cherish is, you know, is some of these historic signs. I know like in Farmington, way back when I was town chairman, we came up with the naming of the roads, you know, hundreds and 200s and avenues and streets. And we tried to match them with St. Croix County because we bordered St. Croix County. But there was this Cherry Lane and everybody knew where Cherry Lane was. And it's Cherry Lane today and nobody would know that if you, I'm sure even the sheriffs, you experienced that where nobody would know where that if you assigned anything else. And this has been that way forever. Well, I'll tell you, one thing you want to honor is in your wills and your license and all this and that. We didn't, those people can't go through that.
Try
Malia, hypothetical.
Okay.
First responders respond to a call for somebody having a heart attack or stroke. Okay. None of the old guys make it to the truck, but all the new guys make it to the truck, okay? They're not familiar with the address system. They're not familiar with the situation down there. Say the chief didn't make it, the assistant chief or whoever. Sometimes we get two people. So as a result, they are lost. Okay. Where with the address system that they're familiar with, they wouldn't be lost. They know they go to this number right down the line. Because the county gave this street an exemption, would the county pick up any liability? Because that may not have been the best decision the county made at that time.
That's what Jason was talking about for that closed session. Because, you know, I'm never going to an open session talk about, well, yeah, there could be a cause of action if X, Y, or Z happened, because then if X, Y, or Z happened, they could pull up meeting minutes from this meeting and go look even the
I
you know,
can
in-house
respect
counsel.
that, but I mean, you know,
I
where
understand
my,
what you're saying,
you know.
and I agree that a discussion needs to be had.
okay,
That's all that we're looking for. And that's why I wanted to put it on your agenda, just because I didn't feel like I had any action, you know, and that because I'm supposed to follow the county's policies and ordinances and that, and so I couldn't just change it, you know, but yet at the same time, you guys had provided the exemption 4 years ago, you know, and that, so I think it's another matter to consider.
okay, any further discussion on that topic?
So I would just pick, since there's been a motion to postpone to a date certain, is if there's a second, I would pick that date certain, obviously probably the April meeting. And just, I know he said table, but I assume he actually meant postpone to a date.
I meant before.
And then we could add closed session language so we can have a more in-depth conversation.
Can I do that to the May meeting? Instead of the
Whatever,
April meeting?
you're the chair, so yes.
Well, I'm looking for the guy that made the motion to say it to the May meeting.
I would say, let's table this to the main meeting and we can resolve this really well. But we want to be fair because we had made this decision. We need a county respect.
The May meeting of which meeting?
This
County.
revisited
The county board meeting?
we revisited here first, wouldn't we?
No, she indicated we go closed session county board, right?
Oh, I was planning on going closed session with this committee.
Oh,
We could
okay.
do this committee in April. And then if there's something to take to the county board, the May meeting would be appropriate.
Okay, you better revamp your meeting.
I still want it in May. So I can't be here in April.
I'm moving that we,
Well, let's
This
put it on.
meeting in May.
This
that's-
revisit this at our main meeting.
Sorry.
I have some
Motion
questions,
made.
but I want to wait until if we're postponing, I'll ask them at that point.
Okay, yep. Motion made and seconded to postpone this to the May meeting of this committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
We're on to the emergency fire warden discussion of possible action.
That is, I believe, just the cleanup resolution that's required. We're going to be past the date that they need it at the state, but they understand that.
What do you want us?
What's our possible action then?
Just approval of those two.
Yeah.
That you appoint.
The what?
You appoint.
Board has-
Yeah.
I know,
But you make the appointment and we reaffirm it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, these two.
So
These
you
two are
want
due.
approval right now at this
We need,
meeting?
we need to approve it to move it on to the
I
board.
so move that we move this on to the county board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to forward the 2023 DNR emergency fire warden list to the county board.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anything additional for the work plan?
Dr. Vince,
I don't. Okay. Any subject for the next meeting? I guess we kind of covered some of that.
was one time of it till May.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sure.